Scrum events. Scrum events should always be time-boxed. A time box is a defined period of time within which the activity takes place. The duration of the time box is dependent on the sprint length. You can see here that the sprint planning for a 1-month sprint should be about 8 hours. The daily Scrum, however, should be the same length of 15 minutes regardless of the sprint length. Sprint reviews and retrospectives are scaled accordingly depending on the sprint and the requirements. The sprint. All the work necessary to achieve the product goal, including sprint planning, daily scrums, sprint review, and sprint retrospective, happen within sprints. During the sprint, developers work to achieve the sprint goal. No changes are made that would endanger the sprint goal. Quality does not decrease. The product backlog is refined as needed. Scope may be clarified and renegotiated with the product owner as more is learned. Backlog refinement. The act of breaking down and further defining product backlog items into smaller, more precise items. An ongoing activity to add details, such as a description, order, and size. The developers who will be doing the work are responsible for the sizing. The product owner may influence the developers by helping them understand and select trade-offs. For development teams to be highly productive, backlog refinement is essential. Scrum Masters should encourage this practice and support everybody in making it effective. Please note, backlog refinement is an ongoing activity, not an event. Sprint planning. Sprint planning initiates the sprint by laying out the work to be performed for the sprint. This resulting plan is created by the collaborative work of the entire Scrum team. The product owner ensures that attendees are prepared to discuss the most important product backlog items and how they map to the product goal. The Scrum team may also invite other people to attend sprint planning to provide advice. Sprint planning addresses the following topics. Topic 1. Why is this sprint valuable? The product owner proposes how the product could increase its value and utility in the current sprint. The whole Scrum team then collaborates to define a sprint goal that communicates why the sprint is valuable to stakeholders. The sprint goal must be finalized prior to the end of sprint planning. Topic 2. What can be done in this sprint? Through discussion with the product owner, the developers select items from the product backlog to include in the current sprint. The Scrum team may refine these items during this process, which increases understanding and confidence. Selecting how much can be completed within a sprint may be challenging. However, the more the developers know about their past performance, their upcoming capacity, and their definition of done, the more confident they will be in their sprint forecasts. Topic 3. How will the chosen work get done? For each selected product backlog item, the developers plan the work necessary to create an increment that meets the definition of done. This is often done by decomposing product backlog items into smaller work items of 1 day or less. How this is done is at the sole discretion of the developers. No one else tells them how to turn product backlog items into increments of value. The sprint goal, the product backlog items selected for the sprint, plus the plan for delivering them are together referred to as the sprint backlog. Sprint planning is time-boxed to a maximum of 8 hours for a 1-month sprint. For shorter sprints, the event is usually shorter. The daily Scrum is a daily time-boxed 15-minute event for the developers of the Scrum team. The purpose of this is: inspect progress towards the sprint goal. Adapt the sprint backlog as necessary. Adjusting the upcoming planned work. The developers can select whatever structure and techniques they want. It produces an actionable plan for the next day of work. It creates focus and improves self-management. Daily scrums improve communications, identify impediments, promote quick decision-making, and consequently eliminate the need for other meetings. A reflection on the daily scrum. Take a few moments to identify 3 ways the daily scrum differs from a status meeting. How does the guidance for the daily scrum support the development team? What techniques could the Scrum Master suggest to help the development team keep the daily scrum to 15 minutes? The sprint. Sprints are the heartbeat of Scrum, where ideas are turned into value. They are fixed-length events of 1 month or less to create consistency. A new sprint starts immediately after the conclusion of the previous sprint. All the work necessary to achieve the product goal, including sprint planning, daily scrums, sprint review, and sprint retrospective, happen within sprints. During the sprint, no changes are made that would endanger the sprint goal. Quality does not decrease. The product backlog is refined as needed. Scope may be clarified and renegotiated with the product owner as more is learned. Sprints enable predictability by ensuring inspection and adaptation of progress toward a product goal at least every calendar month. When a sprint's horizon is too long, the sprint goal may become invalid, complexity may rise, and risk may increase. Shorter sprints can be employed to generate more learning cycles and limit risk of cost and effort to a smaller time frame. Each sprint may be considered a short project. Various practices exist to forecast progress, like burndowns, burnups, or cumulative flows. While proven useful, these do not replace the importance of empiricism. In complex environments, what will happen is unknown. Only what has already happened may be used for forward-looking decision-making. The sprint review is held at the end of the sprint. The purpose of the sprint review is to inspect the outcome of the sprint, the sum of all increments, and determine future adaptations of the product backlog. The Scrum team presents the results of their work to key stakeholders, and progress towards the product goal is discussed. Demonstration of completed product backlog items. Not partially completed product backlog items. It is a working session for the Scrum team. Minimal preparation is required. Avoid slides/descriptions, instead demonstrate the product. Whole Scrum team participates in the review. Take a moment to reflect on the sprint review. Identify at least 3 ways the sprint review differs from a traditional project progress meeting. Consider how the sprint review helps make empirical process control, transparency, inspection, and adaptation a reality. The sprint retrospective. The purpose of the sprint retrospective is to plan ways to increase quality and effectiveness. The Scrum team inspects how the last sprint went with regards to individuals, interactions, process tools, and their definition of done. Identifies assumptions that led them astray and their origins are explored. Discusses what went well, what problems were encountered, and how those problems were solved. Identifies the most helpful changes to improve effectiveness. Take a moment to reflect on the sprint retrospective. Identify at least 3 ways the sprint retrospective differs from a traditional project progress meeting. Consider how the sprint retrospective helps make empirical process control, transparency, inspection, and adaptation a reality.